Oh man, this is episode 200. How can you stand me? This is COFOH Live and Undead. I'm your host, Daniel Crusher, and I am joined by the legendary Debbie Rochon. What?
You write something on my face?
Oh, Debbie, how are you?
Hi. Wow. This is episode 200.
200.
So my one question to you. First, congratulations.
Oh,
That is
thank you.
amazing. Really. Next question. Why the fuck did you wait 200 episodes to have me on?
Oh man, I've always wanted to talk, have you on to talk to you. I guess it just took me, that long to get the nerve up and to ask you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, let's go with that. Good job. Good job. Congratulations. That's badass.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. The whole reason for the show is really to learn more about horror creators and people in the from all walks of life in this genre. Filmmakers, writers, and all that. But Debbie, my question is to you is who are you? Where did you come from? And how did you get into filmmaking?
I am Debbie Rochon.
Yes.
I was born in a can of film.
Ooh.
Like a petri dish.
Ooh.
They put the egg in there, the sperm, they met, and it somehow became this organism, this thing that grew and grew and grew until I came out. And they said, "What have we made? What is this thing?" And it turned into me. And so I went along, and here we are.
Yeah.
He's
Nice.
like, yeah, all right, sure.
Yeah, I love the fun delightful approach to everything. It's we were talking before we went on, and one of the interesting things that I find absolutely fascinating about who you are and your life is for a time when you were a teenager you were homeless, and you talk about that experience and what led to being on off Broadway productions and filmmaking.
Yeah. So, wow. When I was 11 years old, there was all this stuff going on. That's a whole story in itself, but went into like the system, if you will, was taken away from the parents. The parents weren't able, because of what they were going through and stuff, to take care of me. So I was going to go into the foster care system. At this point, I was living in like what you would call a halfway house that they have for teens when they don't have any placement. Because hey, just like animals, the babies are more attractive to take in. But yeah, seriously. But that was just, that in itself was a nightmare, because the troubled kids in those places, it was just absolutely horrendous. I mean, I made a friend there, and so to speak, because we're talking over just a matter of a few days.
Yeah.
And she was actually overdosing one night, like
Mm.
upstairs where the bedrooms were. And at that moment, because things were like so bad there, because like I say, like you have a whole bunch of kids that are completely dysfunctional and that have so many problems that aren't being addressed, especially back then, right?
Right.
And so the abuse, even within that house with the counselors, was pretty bad.
Mm.
So one night when she was overdosing and like the ambulances were coming in and all the counselors, I believe it was police as well, can't remember that part. I took the opportunity to fly out the front door
Mm.
and I just like, I just went with it. That was it.
Right.
And so I had to get out of there because I couldn't endure that abuse either.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of like going from like one insanely crazy situation to another and then to another, which is literally living on the streets.
Yeah.
And that was just, all kinds of stuff that you could well imagine happened, and which included, everything from, I had my head cracked open with a tire iron, uh,
Oh.
multiple rapes.
Oh.
I was even like, and this is actually a chapter in the book. I was actually even with a friend of mine who was this young gay guy,
Mhm.
and the two of us were abducted, basically. I mean, at
Oh.
first,
Yeah.
we were going along with the situation, but it was these 2 guys, and they kept us in a place for, like, a week, and it was just, like, sexual abuse, and he was getting it, you know what I mean? Both were getting it, and it was just, like, all this insanity, just stuff to make you as, just shut down, like bricked up, shut down, and out of your body as you can. Forget about like psychics and stuff that go in the travel, the spirit travel stuff. This is like really for real, like being
Yeah.
able to um get through it, I should say, not experience it because you don't want to experience it. It's the opposite. So
Right.
you don't
Right.
experience it. You get super good at doing those types of things. Then fast track the story to, there was a friend of mine who actually in Canada,
Yeah.
there is this, who's now passed away. There was this female impersonator by the name of Craig Russell, who was really big in
Yeah.
Canada. I don't think the States, but famous, famous. He made a couple movies. I think it was called Outrageous or something.
Mm.
Anyway, his manager, who I knew, who was just kind of all over the place, on the street, and then also doing he was just like one of these guys. He was just interesting, interesting
Yeah.
guy. And he said to me one day, he said, down at the Denman Inn, this is in Vancouver, and that's a hotel.
Yeah.
Uh, Lynn Caro, who's now a massive big, she may have even retired by now for all I know, but she became like the number one casting director in all of like Vancouver when things blew up there after I left.
Yeah.
But she said, he said, go and see her. She's doing this casting for this movie. And I was like, wow, that's interesting, So I went over there and she met me. She said, are you really interested? Would you be willing to really dye your hair and bleach your hair out and all
Mhm.
that stuff? And I said, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, a lot going on over here,
Right.
but I'm willing to do this for your movie. And so she just took a Polaroid and I was cast, and
Nice.
boom, I was on that movie for 3 months, and I made 300 cash a week. Yeah,
Cool.
we're talking back then where this was normal. Like this kind of thing happened where you made cash working on a
Yeah.
movie. Anyway, so that was like the number one step. And
Yeah.
then I eventually, fast forward to 1984, moved to New York City so I could study acting.
Cool.
Um, and yeah, so that's because I read all the books. I had Uta Hagen's book, I had all like the good books,
Mm. Nice.
um, yeah, Lee Strasberg, all the stuff,
Yeah.
Michael Chekhov, all the really, really good stuff. And I thought, well, people were like, oh, if you want to like run away to the States. You should go to LA. And I was like, in my
Mhm.
mind, I was like, well, no, because the movie star thing is like, it's not really like I'm
Right.
much of an oddball, if you will.
Sure.
And I just never saw myself as being like the stereotypical anything, like, the a good girl or bad,
Right.
like in their eyes, how
Right.
they would cast things. So I always thought, no, 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 I want to go and study.
Yeah.
And there's more like weird artsy types. I think I fit in more there. I'm more like drawn to that, to like the New York East Coast stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I ended up over there.
Nice. Nice. Oh, that's wow. That is, quite the story. Uh, such a terrible thing to have happen to you. And, we talked about, that it's something that really needs to be, brought to light, so that,
Mm.
you know, other people uh, can see, homelessness is, they people need help and they need to be understood and reached out to.
Yeah, and it's really true. And then the other thing I wanted to say about that was, it took me like an extra long time because ironically, I think on my Facebook I had posted this student film that for the first time was ever posted on YouTube. So, I mean, it's really, really funny. And then I
Yeah.
look at it and I'm like, oh my God, like it's so like looking at myself. I'm not talking about anybody else with the filmmaker. And I'm like, oh my God, it's just like so bad. And but like I'm laughing at the same time,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking to myself, well, you have to be kind to yourself. And the reason I say that is because it can take anyone. Some
Yeah.
people are born with it, and I'm like blows my mind, right? Like, holy shit, you're like born ready to go in the
Yeah.
arts. It's amazing to me. But for me, because of what I went through, it took so many years and
Yeah.
years of acting class to like break down all that shit that I had
Yeah.
built up in order to survive. Right.
Right.
So
Right.
it was just so long it took me to get to that point. And I mean, it's got two sides to it. One is that finally, which is probably going into like the late 90s, I would say,
Mhm.
when I started to like hit my stride and be able to actually do
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
Um, uh, the other thing that happens is that you also have this kind of like a breakdown. Like when I was going through the acting class and all that kind of stuff, I got all kinds of phobias. I even had agoraphobia. I had to like
Wow.
fight through to get out because
God.
all of that stuff comes barreling in
Mm.
because your whole job as an actor is to feel all those things and
Right.
experience everything and take your past and deal with it.
Yeah.
And then if you fast forward a whole lot to now when I'm writing my autobiography, even again, it happens again. You're writing out the stories, and all of a sudden, you got to spend an entire day in bed. You're
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah. Just having to revisit that stuff.
yeah.
I've heard a lot of people do go through that when they sit there and have to write their memoirs. In fact, the other day I was watching a video on TED Talks actually about college applications and how so many immigrants have to revisit these traumatic experiences, either immigrating over or being a refugee,
Yeah.
and writing these college entrance essays, having to relive that and relive that trauma. So I'd imagine that's very similar to what you would have to go through too. Wow.
Yeah,
That,
and you don't think about that, do you?
no.
That they have to write these essays, people think,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, it's just a paper for school."
Right.
But
Right.
if you're to be, like, really get down to the roots of it and be honest, because I
Yeah.
always felt like, because 'cause I've read a lot of autobiographies, and the ones that really piss me off are the ones that are boring, because you know that they're not talking
Yeah.
about everything, and
Right.
that's their right to not talk about everything.
Right.
But the ones that I really, like, blow my mind are the ones that take all of these chances, and they're so honest that you when as a reader, you're not judging them, but when you're writing it, you feel nothing but judgment Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to
Right.
describe, but you're like, it's a scary thing. So you learn to like read things and just get blown away by people who are just so honest. And I say, unless you're going to be like insanely honest, there's just no point in doing it.
Right. Right. No,
Yeah.
I agree. Kind of changing topics, but I discovered your work when I was in art school back in the mid '90s. Specifically with Tromeo and Juliet, and then
Mhm.
later Terra Firma. Through the trauma camp, which my dad had the misfortune of introducing me to the Toxic Avenger back in the '80s, and it's just been a love affair that's carried on through the years, and seeing Lloyd's work, and then your work on screen. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those experiences working with Trauma and with Lloyd Kaufman?
Yeah. Oh boy. So I met Lloyd in like late 1992,
Oh,
92. I was writing
yeah,
an article about trauma, and I went up there and I was interviewing him. And true to Lloyd, which
yeah.
anybody who's met him, which is now millions of people,
Mhm,
if you talk to him about something, he'll say, well, why don't we do this?
mhm.
And you go and you do it. And so when I did that particular article, he says, hey, what, we got all these movies, brand new movies, and we have to make new art for them. So
Nice.
why don't you like pose for some art for movies, that you're not
Yeah,
even in, by the way, but
right.
that's okay because we need new art. And so that's what I did. So I did like maybe 6 of those. And then all of a sudden it started like before Comedy Central was called that, it was called Ha or Ha Ha, something like that.
Oh, wow, I don't
And,
even remember
that was
that.
brand new before it changed quick,
Yeah.
but, we did all this crazy stuff, on there. We would crash, like, the film parties at, Gracie Mansion in Manhattan, and, Mr. T would be there and all these people. Then this crazy trauma group would be there.
Yeah.
We were doing, like, parades and this and that, doing all kinds of stuff. Bumpers for, channels all over the world, like, be it Netherlands or Germany or
Oh, cool.
in France, and they would show like all these 70s trauma movies, but they would have these bumpers in between. And I did a whole bunch of those, and then all this stuff. And then finally, he
Mhm.
said to me, and then we did the trauma infomercial. And that's when I was at his house because we were shooting in his backyard, a piece of that. And by backyard, I mean this, he lives in this beautiful brownstone. So it's like this really cool backyard. And he says, look at this. It's a script for Tromeo and Juliet. Read it and see if any of these roles appeal to you. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. So I read it. And
Mhm.
I think James Gunn had just been hired on as his assistant at
Oh,
that time.
cool. Oh,
So,
cool.
yeah, so he completely rewritten it since that first draft, and when I say read it and see if anything appeals to you, it
Yeah,
doesn't matter if you're Lemmy,
yeah,
like, just even if it's just for the sake of saying that you did it, even
yeah.
if it's just that, Lloyd will always make you read for everything.
Okay,
Like,
nice.
doesn't matter if you're, I don't know who to use it. David Cronenberg. He would make David Cronenberg, you know what I mean?
Right,
Read to
right, right.
play David Cronenberg in the so it was funny, but, yeah, so James Gunn was there, and we were doing, like, a lot of, like, Trauma TV, Edge
Yeah.
TV, all this kinda stuff, beforehand, and then the movie came along, and, so we did the movie, and one of the funny things about Tromeo and Juliet, it
Mhm.
was, like, so the people in the movie were so cool. It
Yeah,
was amazing. I mean, it was, like, so and there was some amazing, great actors, and I think what sets it apart is not just, how it was shot, how it looks, the
yeah,
story, all of these things that were important, right? But I
yeah,
think that the thing that reset trauma with Tromeo and Juliet was the fact that you had all of these great actors that were really not really in the previous Troma movies. And that's not a diss to any of them, because
Yeah.
there's amazing actors like Lisa Gay, who's a great actress, and some others as well. But I think with the entire cast being so good, it was, I think that set the line in the sand, and then Troma got sort of like this new breath of life from it.
Yeah.
And so that was a really cool experience. So that was kind of the beginning. So I did all of this stuff with Lloyd prior, and then it sort of built up to that first movie. And
Nice.
the whole time, and the one thing I got to say, which was funny, sounds like it's like not funny, but to me, looking back, it was funny. I'll never forget that we were in Times Square, and we had this like little room rented to do rehearsals in, that everything was rehearsed like over and over, like a trillion times over. It wasn't
Yeah.
just like, it feels like people just showing up in a Troma set and just winging it and having a
Right.
blast. But in
Right.
fact, it's like so rehearsed. It's
Yeah.
insane, right? So I'll never forget this one time, me and Jane Jensen,
Mhm.
who's gone on to be an amazing musician, singer. We were doing our scene in the bedroom, which turned into a love scene. And James Gunn was there. Lloyd wasn't there for the rehearsals, but the rehearsals were being taped. And James Gunn, realistically and rightfully so, said, well, however we're going to do the scene, that's how we're going to rehearse it. So in other words, you're going to weed out anybody who doesn't want to do, like, they're just going to say they're going to do nudity, but they're not going to end up doing it once you get on the set, and then you're kind of screwed, right?
Right. Right.
So,
Right.
and I remember saying to him, I was like, I'm not rehearsing naked. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, nope. Not, I said, trust me, I'm gonna do it. I have
Yeah.
no problem doing it, but for some reason, I have a problem doing it in the rehearsal. And so
Sure.
that was probably really awkward for him, because who cares? Because you're gonna be shooting it, and it doesn't really seem like a big deal. But I don't know if, again, if it's my past, or if it's just comfort of
Right.
having, like, actually all these people around. I don't know what it was, but, luckily, he was a really great guy, and he
Mhm.
went with it, and he just, we rehearsed, and we did our thing on the set, and there was no problems, none at all.
Good. That's cool. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, stuff like that. I mean, it's such a hard thing to approach anyway. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I would say it's like, yeah, better leave it up to the comforts of the actor, of the performer.
Yes.
That's got to go through with that. Some folks out there, know that I did a short film, and it called for nudity, and I'm like, I don't want to put any of my actors through it. I'll do it. It's just like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, I'd much rather just do it. It's hilarious, and it's stupid male, full frontal and all that, and just do that, get it out there, and it's hilarious. But
Yes, yes. I love it, and guess what? It's part of cinema. Whether
right,
people like it, maybe they don't like it, that's
right,
totally cool. But hey, it's been around since they invented film in the
yeah,
late 1800s. For one of the first things they filmed were some ladies doing burlesque.
yep,
So as old as film is, that's as old as nudity as art has been in film. So
yeah,
there you
yeah.
go. Yep.
Mo Most definitely. Well, man, that's really cool, to hear about, those stories on Tromeo. Uh, can you tell me a little bit about how Terra Firma was approached? That was one that I really got into, and I think it's just now hitting its stride, finding a much bigger audience these days.
I think so too, because the funny thing is, just looking at it from the outside,
Mhm.
the first thing I'll say is, as a movie, I much prefer it to Tromeo and Juliet. Like, Terra
Right.
Firma is my favorite Troma movie,
Yeah.
because it is so funny. And
Yeah.
there is like so much going on. Like I say, it's like a Mad magazine. There's not a piece of the frame
Right.
where
Right.
there's not a million things going on, and that is like genius.
Yeah.
And a lot of the casting was because of Will Keenan, who obviously was Tromeo. So he
Yeah.
was kind of like, and you hate to compare people, but just to give an example, he was like in the position of James Gunn was from Tromeo.
Okay.
That's Will Keenan heading up and being in Terra Firma, like
Nice.
bringing all these like New Yorkers in, like Theo Coogan from the Lunatics and
Yeah.
Sean Pierce from the Toilet Boys, and having that cool aspect of bringing in, you know, musicians and all that stuff. Um, it was typically, I mean, a couple of the funny stories would be like near the end of the movie where Will is bringing me out by a dog chain and we're coming out of this weird dark building. While in that weird dark building were like a vast amount of like hornets' nests. And so I remember like coming out and having like some
Mm.
of them landing on my calves because I had
Yeah.
obviously a pretty short mini skirt on. And I
Ooh.
did the scene, but meanwhile, while I was doing the scene, I was being like stung. And
Oh,
so
no.
they stopped for a minute after there was a few stings in there. And I remember that the poor makeup girl, she was trying so hard to be nice. She was like, well, what should we do in case she's allergic? In case she's allergic. And you know, seems like it should be in the movie, right?
Right.
And Lloyd came up and said, "Stop that! Stop that! You're gonna make her allergic by putting it in her mind. Like, stop, stop!" But it was like perfect because he is just so how he is in the movie in
Yeah.
real life.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just so funny. But yeah, that was super hot. Shot that in Brooklyn and really had a great time. Another funny thing about that, we all went to Cannes.
Yeah.
And we all, like, stayed in a tiny little apartment, slept on the floor and all that, and we screened Terra Firma on this massive screen, and I'll never forget, like and I had seen the movie and loved the movie, and to this day, love the movie. Like, it's
Yeah.
my favorite. Lloyd knows, like, anytime he brings up, Terra Firma, he always has to, like, bring me up because he knows I'm gonna go, "This is my favorite movie."
Nice.
And, so we're watching it in Cannes, but it's so big
Yeah.
that the bathroom scene where I'm having sex, like a guy's having sex with me from behind, and, um, it's, like, so big in your face that I was just, like, appalled. Like, just because of the
Right.
shock value, you know what I mean,
Yep.
of it that
That's a
big,
play. Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh my god, like, what have I done? Like, this looks like porn." Like, oh my god, and especially, like, back then. Now, I think
Right.
everybody's far hipper, and
Yeah.
they can look at it for exactly what it is.
Mhm.
As per usual, Lloyd is, ahead of the game, so to speak, and, you know, so when it came out, it was just like it had enough elements that a lot of people wrote it off as like, it's a comedy, but it's like a porno, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
crude and all that stuff. But obviously it's not because it doesn't show anything. It's just all implied. But
Right.
so that was an experience too. But so yeah, I mean, making trauma movies, if you don't just go in like Nick Cage balls out,
Yeah. Yeah.
then I'm telling you, you are wasting your time and you're wasting the movie's time
Right. Right.
because that's what it needs you know, to make it you know, those movies. You
Yeah.
have to be like, leave your ego and your
Your inhibitions.
thank you,
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
inhibitions at the friggin' door.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
most definitely. Oh, yeah, yeah, we were talking about, trauma films, beforehand, and yeah, the Nicolas Cage, analogy is just, perfect. Just, yeah, shoot for the moon and, yeah,
Yeah.
just chew that scenery to no end. That'll be a lot of fun. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. It's, Brett, is chiming in.
Oh, Brett's
His
chiming in.
yeah, his favorite is, of course, Model Hunger, and which you directed that. You
Yeah.
you co-wrote and directed that, And we were talking about that before we went live. Yeah, that was such a fun film, and I got to interview Lynn Lowry, who starred in that, and she looked like she had the most fun she's had in a long time in front of the
Mhm.
camera on that film. Can,
Yeah.
can you talk about that experience?
Yeah, and I should really say that, James Morgart
Hmm.
wrote the movie, like, just so
Right.
that there's no like, it's his movie writing wise. What he was so kind, because you have to understand not everybody's like that, because he
Yeah.
produced it as well, and he could have easily said, "No, this has to be this way and this has to stay," but because he is a creative,
Yeah.
I said to him, "Oh, this should go and this should come in," and, all of those kind of conversations, and he was down with it. So, I mean, I can't even begin to say props to James Mogart for that. I mean, because like I say, not everybody would like a lot of those changes that were made,
Right.
but it's just like it was just one of those scripts that I picked up, and I just saw so many possibilities that, for like little tiny pieces and just themes and imagery and stuff that, I only scratched the surface in actually getting compared to what I wanted. And
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of stories about that. But it was truly, just an intense experience, a really good one as far as almost everybody goes. I mean, there was, like, a lot of struggles going on, but just the fact that we completed it with all of so many obstacles coming up upon us,
Yeah.
throughout the entire time, and
Mm.
even after it was made in post. So, it was just to get it finished, because we shot it in 2012 and it was released in
Oh,
2016.
okay.
It was literally it did not take a lot of time for it to literally come out. What took a lot of time is for it to be edited and
Mm.
fixed to all the issues fixed to the point of it being able to be released. So
Yeah.
that's why it was in that time. And I remember Lynn jokingly would say to me, "Honey pie," because when she finished the movie,
Yeah.
I don't think she would ever speak without saying honey pie, because she just loved it. She said, "I hope I'm still alive when this movie comes out." And so, joking around, of course.
Right.
And I
Right.
said, "No, I promise. Wait, I promise." And,
Yeah.
yeah, so sure enough, I mean, like, there was so much that I tried to bring to the table, and I think I did,
Yeah.
and then a lot of stuff that's learning curve stuff. I mean, it doesn't matter how many movies that you are in, that you have even contributed to, because you're there and you have a lot of experience, so maybe you, suggest things to the director if they're open, depends on the director,
Yeah.
and how many times I've done that, it doesn't matter, like, when you are directing, it is truly a learning curve, and like a film school, even if you've made 200 movies, because there are different things that come up. Now, the beauty of it is, and you guys know making movies, is that, you can try, even if it's only, like, half successful, you have all of these, like, moments of, you want this, like, just way deep in the background, just because it's there, and if somebody's, like, deep into the movie, they're gonna see it, and if not, it doesn't matter, because you got the whole movie going on over here.
Right.
And, things that I changed, like, to have, uh, the models be men dressed as women, as opposed to women,
Right.
uh, full-figured women.
Yep.
I said, "Well, let's have full-figured men dressed as women," and the reason was twofold. The first most important reason was that I felt like, from my experience, um, they are far more free
Mm.
and just self-loving, and just like, out there and creative and just like using it to their advantage.
Yeah.
Whereas, and really knowing how and loving it. Whereas most women, less so nowadays, thank God, but even back then, 2012 and
Yeah.
leading up to then, it's harder for women who are more full figured to
Mhm.
feel to have fun with it. Like I am part of the reason I'm here is not only am I beautiful, but I am full figured. That's the reason I'm here. And so I felt like, well, let's take all of that pressure
Yeah.
off of women and have these guys do it,
Right.
you know? And then also, what also played into it for me, not to get too deep into just Susie's Secret, but that's
Right.
like, a big part of it. Another thing that I really love too is that, TV lies,
Right.
you know what I mean? And
Oh,
so why should, this be it's like this cult. It's kind of like this cult thing. It's all that anybody's able to watch. They can watch other things, but they're not doing it. Even the guys having like making faces at it. Michael O'Hear, he's like one of the cops that shows him at home during the montage, and he's like
yeah.
freaking out. The only one, mind you. But I said, let's just have it like so it's this almost like hypnotic cult-like show that's just but it's not being completely truthful with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I say, it's not even in a bad way, but I'm just saying, like, and even with Susie Lorraine, she's in a fat suit,
Mm.
right?
Yep. Yep.
She's, and that's a character that she's always wanted to play. Like we all have lists of things that we want to do. And she was very much wanted to be able to create a character that was, believable and stuff and do that. And yeah, I mean, even today, I can't imagine that people would be, thrilled about that. But I personally love it because we're not looking for someone who is of a certain shape. We
Yeah.
are looking for something that is kind of lying to you, like
Mm.
TV does, is the
Yeah.
point, right?
Yeah.
So, not to get too much into just Susie's Secret, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's just an example of all the thought that you put into every single thing when you're making a movie. And even if just a third of it comes across, then it's not too bad.
Nice. Well, and even with a good lie, sometimes a little bit of truth gets exposed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
Oh, that's cool. The it looks like we've got John Wood and Wayne here that they're talking about.
Nice.
I wanted to, yeah, I watched Band again recently. He says he has a fun drawing coming up for her based on the movie, and then
Nice.
Wayne said he just watched Band and rewatched Exhumed. One of or two of his favorites with you.
Very cool. Well, first of all, thank you, John. John is like this amazing artist. I call him a fan artist because he does like a lot of work on a lot of the horror people.
Oh,
He's also a professional artist in that he does cartoons for newspapers.
oh,
So,
great.
yeah, he's the real deal. But
Cool.
he does amazing work. So that's incredible, John. Thank you so much. I mean, it's always an honor when he does your caricature.
Nice.
So that's cool. And Wayne, thank you so much too. Yeah, Band is like, it's one of those movies, I swear to God. And
Mhm.
okay, Zoom's a whole nother story here. I
Yeah.
got a lot to say about that, but Band is cool because it is a movie that was despised upon
Mhm.
creation by its own mother,
Mhm.
meaning Roberta Finlay.
Yeah.
She could make the worst, like, and by worst, I mean great worst, good,
Yeah.
sort of sleaze fare, and, people love it, and it's great, and she has her niche. But this is like her redheaded stepchild she never know what to do with, and
Okay.
just therefore did not want anything to do with it because
Yeah.
she didn't even understand what she made, really. I mean, in that sense, compared to what she made her whole life over here.
Yeah.
So um, so yeah, she was just sort of like, "Meh, don't care if that ever comes out,"
Yeah.
Roberta Family, she's like really gruff. Like, I remember when I had to get naked for a scene and she was like, "Ah, you're awful thin." I mean, it was funny. It was funny. Like, even then I was like, hard to take it to heart in a bad way.
Right.
But I was like, yeah, in my mind, I was like, okay, glad I was homeless because now I'm going to leave my body and not take that insult to heart.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
yeah, it comes in
Yeah.
handy. But yeah, obviously, I remember that moment forever. But I always loved it because it's like the perfect time capsule, right? Like, it's a perfect time, and it to me, I love those bizarre, weird New York Underground movies
Yeah.
that they don't even necessarily know fully what they are themselves,
Mm.
but they just kinda are.
Yeah.
And I personally, that's like one of my favorite genres of movies. So I personally love it. I think it's probably gonna take a while to find its audience,
Right.
but it's out, and it took since 1988. Well, I haven't been trying to get it released since '88, but probably since the mid-90s.
Okay.
I have been trying to get it released since then, and it just got released now, so
Nice. Good. Wow. That's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. Man, uh, kind of going back to, directing, do you have any, like, new directing projects on the horizon or anything that
Yeah.
you think about?
Yeah, there's a couple of them. I mean,
Yeah.
Torment Road is one that's still it's percolating, and by that, I mean James Gunn James Mogart James Gunn wrote it. No, James Mogart wrote this as well as the same person who wrote Model Hunger, and it is really amazing. It's not a dark comedy, it's more like, uh I told him I really wanted to do this, like, really twisted, sick road movie. Like, that was I wanted to do a road movie,
Yeah.
and Torment Road, literally. And so, he wrote this amazing script, and I had started, raising funds for it.
Cool.
Then COVID hit, and I got a lot of stuff for it, which I
Yeah.
still have. It's, like, sitting there waiting. But now it's kind of like I have to restart the
Mhm.
sort of bulk of it, besides the things that I do have in place from the small fundraiser that I did back then. So that is on the burners. That's on the burners, and if that goes first, then hallelujah. There's another sort of series, without going into it too much because I'm not the only person involved,
Sure.
but
Sure.
that is really super cool. And it's like a strange sort of throwback, if you will, to the ooze era of the
Mm.
80s,
Yeah.
like Street Trash, Slime City, Toxic
Yeah.
Avenger, all the kind of melty, oozy 80s
Stuff. Yeah.
vibe stuff. Yeah, with the comedy.
Yeah.
Definitely with the comedy in there. So there's that project. So there's like 2 or 3 of those that are all like in various degrees of working, and some will sort of bubble up. Like that one I just spoke about, like had a big it even, had some funding come into it.
Good.
So we're gonna see. It's always like piece by piece by piece.
Yeah.
Sometimes these things they take what feels like forever. But there are some other projects as well. I'm gonna be directing, a short, which is part of, a series of shorts called Six, and, so there's, like, obviously 6, shorts within it, and I'm gonna be directing one of those.
Cool.
So yeah, there's a lot of really cool stuff. There's some stuff that hasn't been announced yet, but gonna be a lot of fun, and I have to leave it to the directors as
Yeah.
much as I would like to take their glory away and tell the people,
Yeah.
because I'm excited.
Yeah.
But one thing I can say, there is, coming up really soon, I have to go to, Ohio
Mm.
and shoot the sequel to The Girl,
Nice.
and that's, it was a very small movie, probably very few people have seen it, they should see it, and this script is just, even better, and he's making it much bigger, and I reprised the role in that. And so yeah, model hunger, a little bit of model hunger news is that we are in the beginning phases, even though there has been work already done, but we are going to be doing a Blu-ray release,
Good.
some
Good.
really cool stuff, and spit shine it up so it looks better and all that kind of stuff. So we're just in the beginnings of that. And there's some insane, exciting stuff going on with American Nightmare. And
Yeah.
yeah, we're gonna again, it's like, man, I remember back in the day, you could talk about anything. Like
Mhm.
just, yeah, I'm doing this movie in 2 months and that one in 3. And
Right.
but now it's kind of like it's a combination of like jinxing things, and you have to wait till really like the director pulls the
Pull the
string,
trigger.
pull
Right.
the
Right.
strings, and but like plane tickets are bought. So it's not like these things aren't happening. It's just I gotta wait for them to say a lot of the stuff. But as you could see, a lot of stuff and directing, yeah, this year.
That's
For sure.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to see you get behind the camera again. Of course, I can't wait to see you get in front of the camera again.
Yeah,
It's
that's nice.
there's
Thank you.
Yeah, there's no shortage of cool projects that you're involved in, and of course,
Yeah.
for everybody out there, I mean, if you go to Debbie's IMDb page, you got over 200 projects to pick and choose from. It's quite the resume of fantastic work.
And it's all over the map. If
Yeah,
you're looking for Ed Wood stuff,
yeah,
I got it. If you're
right,
looking for like really moody stuff, I
yeah,
got it. Exhumed. Wayne mentioned Exhumed. That's one
right,
of my top favorite movies. Color from the Dark, another top favorite movie. I mean, there's like, I feel like there's something for everybody, including children. You're raising your eyebrow, but there
right.
is.
Cool.
Doggy Tales. People think,
Okay.
"Oh, that sounds like a porno." No, in fact, it really, really is. Hilarious, actually, Troma release. The guys from Troma went to Central Park to
Mhm.
like the dog run, and they
Okay.
shot dogs just in a dog run,
Yeah.
like no particular story, really.
Yeah.
And then we did voices,
Oh,
including
cool.
James Gunn and his then wife, Jenna. Help me.
Shoot. She was from The Office. I
Yes.
can't remember her last name too. I'm terrible.
He's been
Uh,
in big movies. And
quick. I think we need more coffee.
help, Jenna.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There we go. Uh,
Her, yes, that's right, her. So they even do voices in this, okay? So this is
yeah,
like not all that long after Tromeo. I think maybe he is done at this point. Well, he did that movie, what was it, Lollipop or something?
Lonely Love.
Lolly Love, thank you very
Yeah,
much. That Jenna
yeah.
directed.
Jenna Fisher.
And so they kind of like in exchange, if you will, they
Yeah,
did voices in this doggy movie, and they did a little bit of a wraparound with Lloyd and his daughter. But we all did voices for the dog movie. So my point being, yes, there's even something for the kids in there.
yeah.
So, you know,
That's
we're
true.
doing what we can. And you can learn a lot from Obscurities podcast. There's lots of
Mm,
information there.
cool.
So yeah,
Nice. Yeah,
I
that
try, I try
that
to help everybody.
that's always great to be able to go to not only all the films and series, but yeah, recommendation of podcasts. I mean, that's stuff like this. It's that
Mhm.
that oral live history that kind of gets translated back to you. It's a great wealth of information. Uh,
Yep.
on those platforms, because other mediums aren't going to pick this stuff up
No.
necessarily.
Nope.
Yeah, so it's great to kind of translate back and forth, between each other in this capacity.
I love it. I really love it. And I was just talking to a friend of mine about the days of IATA. Before IATA, there was pseudo radio in the 90s. And I had a
Right.
show on there, and actually, Sean Pierce from Toilet Boys just happened to have a show on there, and I didn't even know it
Cool.
at the time. First internet radio show ever. That was 1996. Like, who the
Nice.
hell could even stream it? I don't even know.
Right. Right.
Um, then in like 99 to 2001, IATA came along, and that was like a full multi-studio, looks like a radio studio, but it's strictly internet. IATA after the Jerry Seinfeld, yada, yada, yada. Electronic, yada. Did that, and that was cutting edge for that time. But instead of it being like one of those things that people were predicting and putting these millions of dollars into those channels or those channels,
Yeah.
many shows on the channel. In fact, what happened, it was a DUI punk thing, and the
Right.
podcast won the day. And see what I mean? And that's actually a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So, and then of course I did the satellite as well, and I did regular radio too in New York, but the podcasts have won the day. And that's kind of really super cool because you can like pinpoint what you like down to the millimeter. Like,
Yeah.
I like true crime, but I like true crime where, women only commit it on full moons. Well, they got a show about that, right?
Right. Right.
So
Very
it's
niche.
awesome. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, the DIY aspect, it's the punk rock ethos, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it
And
sure is.
that's something that like Troma Films, I think,
Yeah.
adheres by, which was kind of punk rock before there was, and of course early online podcasting. I mean, now you've got massive companies like Spotify that kind of elbow in, but
Yeah.
that's online gentrification for you.
Yes, yes. And it will always happen. It will always be the indies who start something, and
Right.
then it's almost like the companies with money, if you will. Not to be like too conspiracy theorist, but it's true. They'll sort of like watch what's happening, what's working, and then
Yep.
they'll kind of get involved. But let the indie guys sort of like feel it out, figure it
Yeah.
out, do
Yeah.
it. Just like with the transition from shooting on actual VHS to finally digital
Right.
and so forth. I mean, they kind of like watch what's going on and then kind of pick and choose what they want to use that they can make famous. Money. That's right. Money. Sorry, not famous. Money.
They can make the money. Yeah.
Make money.
Let the the creative explorers, go out and risk it all and stuff. And
Yeah. Exactly.
yeah. And then they benefit off of that that loss of flesh, so to speak.
Yes.
In some instances. Yeah. Debbie, I want to say, thank you for coming on and being so generous with your time. I know, you're in the middle of working on a project and you had to take time out of your day, but it's been an absolute honor and pleasure to be able to converse with you.
I want to thank you so much. And most seriously, thank you for having me on number 200.
Yes.
That's so awesome. 200. 200. That's not nothing.
No,
Right?
it isn't.
That's
No,
not nothing. That's
no.
really good. Congratulations, man. That's
Oh,
awesome.
thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah,
Yeah,
appreciate
it's
it.
an honor to be here. Thank you. Can't wait to see you soon.
Yes.
Right?
We'll be seeing you September 15th through the 17th at the Colorado Festival of Horror here in Denver, Colorado.
Yes.
Yes. So we'll be making an official announcement online, but
Did I ruin that too? Damn it. See what I mean? I can't see.
no, you didn't ruin anything. No, this is the video announcement,
Oh,
But
okay.
we can't wait to have you out and we'll set you up with doing some screenings, Q&A, whatever you want to do, and anything creative too. That's one of the things that we want to put forth to our guests is like, if you have a creative activity or project that you want some of the attendees to participate in, let's see about doing that too.
You know where we are.
Yes, yes, most
right?
definitely.
Come
Yes,
on now.
yes. Yeah,
Thank you so much. It's an
yeah.
honor. Thank
Uh,
you for having me on. Happy
thank
200. You don't look a day over 100.
thank you. Yes. Yeah, this is all COVID. No. No, appreciate it, Debbie. Stick around while we sign off. But again, yeah, thanks for your generosity and all your talent and we can't wait to see your next film
Thank
and root
you.
for you.
And thanks, guys, for listening. Thank you.
Uh, Thanks, guys, and to everybody who tuned in. Of course, thank you for being so generous, especially for sticking with us for 200 episodes. Dear God, how do you put up with me? Uh, but and of course to our sponsors, I want to say thank you to Mutiny Information Cafe. If you're going to start a revolution, make sure you're caffeinated. Debbie and I are certainly.
Come
Uh,
on.
and of course, to Hellfire Entertainment, thanks for rebroadcasting us on your social media. To Groovy TV, and of course to Alien Donut Films and Angela Joseph Productions. To Bill and Angela over there, respectively. Thanks so much for all your support, and to my producers, Lily Fisher, who's been just a godsend this year, and to Amanda Armstrong and Stefan Santa Cruz. Couldn't have done all this without you. Couldn't have brought Debbie on here without you. And to everybody out there, be good, be kind, help each other out during tough times, and stay spooky, everybody. Have a good